So I'm Richard Stark, I'm one of the directors in DTLX. We're a drone solutions company based in northeast of Scotland. So our focus is around about Montrose, but as a Scottish company. So we're effectively what we call ourselves as a consultancy plus. The drone industry is relatively young, and therefore we operate as consultants, providing advice with an aim to building those into projects, ultimately operations that will come in the future. We are Scotland based, but we look abroad, and interestingly enough, we have through our network we're about to have a sister company establish itself in Australia. Australia, like Scotland, a kind of area of wide open rural spaces, and therefore ideal for early drone use cases. The opportunity around drones is really, if you think of things, making things safer, greener, and more cost effective in terms of any of your operations that you do. Obviously, generally you'd be unmanned, so you take people out of the equation, or you reduce the number of people involved in the equation. You put it through software and computers, therefore removing human error. Most drones are powered by electricity, therefore, as long as in Scotland, obviously, lots of renewable energy, and therefore should make it greener than most fossil fuels, and more cost effective because you're removing in one instance, you're removing the requirement necessarily to put humans or indeed lots of humans into transport, and therefore you don't have to design them to quite the same specification and maintain them to the same specification as you would a manned transport. The key opportunity here is that the drones, you all know they've been around for a while, but just now almost everything is restricted by the regulations to within visual line of sight. So as far as you can see, out to a maximum about 500 meters. That's kind of the limits. The industry has advanced. There's the knowledge or the expectation in terms of what drones will do with the regulator, and the idea is that we then move to beyond visual line of sight, so beyond 500 meters. And once you fly beyond 500 meters, you have the opportunity to do drone deliveries and long-range inspections and all those kind of things that we all imagined would happen 10 years ago, but haven't yet. So effectively, the technology thereabouts exists. It's the regulatory environment that's constraining. And as a kind of finger in the air, reasonably educated guess would be 2025 will be the time that this will become more widespread or increasingly widespread. And the emergence of drone technologies will create new industries whilst enhancing existing ones. So our approach and our reason that we're here is that we wish to be early adopters. We work in part, it's a very complicated kind of ecosystem, both from airspace and technology and operating, and there's a lot of different people involved. So we work in partnerships to create drone solutions. So we integrate what's already there into a solution that will work. And our key thing, and the key thing in the industry just now, is to seek lower risk use cases. Yeah, that demonstrates early commercial operations, allowing things to scale. And the best places for that are the rural environment and the offshore environment. So therefore, Scotland is ideally suited. So there's some big numbers in terms of drones in general. You can see most of the things there are discussed in the billions. On the right-hand side, the blue one there, it says 74 billion by 2035. That is the estimate from the UK government as to the size of the drone industry within the next 10 plus years within the UK alone. And when you look beyond the UK, the numbers often go to trillions, and you can see that. So regardless of what your interest is, there is a pretty good opportunity there. The bottom graph on the bottom there just shows you that we're only kind of 10% through the journey in terms of where the whole drone industry ultimately ends up. And so, what kind of stuff are we talking about? Well, behind the scenes, there's all the airspace, all that kind of stuff, and the kind of control systems to control it. But that's all a bit boring to put in a presentation. So I've kind of divided it up to what you would actually see. So you see drone ports. There's a couple of things. There's that top left. That's going to be built in Coventry next year. But that company have an agreement in place with Hyundai, who are currently putting over $1 billion into drone ports and what's called eVTOL. The Skyports have just agreed to lease 15 sites across London. And then you look at a company at the bottom there, Lilium, who have plans for North German network, linking all the regional cities together. So kind of like your like the trains do just now, you'll be linked by little sort of 5-seater planes. In the middle there is the unmanned drones. So these are the kind of logistics looking ones in some ways. So the top one there, Skyports, if you've seen on the internet, flying Oban to Mull and over in Argyll. They flew 14,000 kilometres beyond visual line of sight for the NHS last year. They're actually coming to Angus probably early next year to do something similar with us. So that'll be really exciting. There's a lot of stuff in the military in terms of logistics. Obviously, the military spend a lot of money, therefore helping the industry along with the technology and the operations. And then finally there at the bottom, so you have a fixed wing drone there. It's Flylogics. They're currently doing commercial operations for the oil and gas companies offshore, sampling offshore methane. On the right hand side, we have all the flying taxis. So you can see the kind of experience that there is. 15,000 flights by EHang. Lilium, they've just pre-ordered over 220 into Brazil, trying to alleviate congestion at this point for the super rich, but ultimately the aim is to get that down to kind of a $1 a mile, kind of like an Uber, I suppose. And then at the bottom, we've got a British company there, so that's Vertical Aerospace. They just last week agreed a sort of MOU with Bristow's for like 50 aircraft, and they've got a pre-order with Virgin for 150. So it's all coming, all these things about people and everything else. So what does it look like? There's lots of sort of stuff. I've kind of shown you some of the physical stuff, the things you could kind of knock with your fists and make a noise. But you need to remember that the drone's just one part of this wider network, and it's also you can kind of stick whatever you want onto a drone. The drone is just the vehicle. So it's cameras, it's sensors, it's batteries, it's hydrogen, it's communication, it's all those kind of things. Yeah, all those kind of systems from all the main players, all the people who are involved in kind of comms for be that offshore, onshore, for aviation and everything else. And then the software elements is a whole industry. So it's kind of taken probably 70 years, 100 years for the UK's airspace or for the world's airspace to be created. And in effect, what we're trying to do is replicate that in about sort of 5 to 10 years. So everything from pilot testing to drone testing, certification, maintenance, all the other stuff there. Cybersecurity now, sort of these things are hugely kind of technical and therefore vulnerable. So all those kind of things, and loads of legal and regulatory issues as well to go through. So you can see that there's more to it than just the drone there. There's a huge amount of opportunity, and that's where those billions and trillions, those numbers come from. So our business model as DTLX, we're kind of because of the journey that the industry is going in, we operate as a consultancy initially. So we find people with problems or looking to expand. We build projects with them. Once we demonstrate the projects, we'll move to then revenue generating, sales and profits. And then obviously there's a whole lot of other opportunities out there. So currently we kind of we're building a drone port in Montrose that'll come onto it, and we're looking at a heavy lift tethered drone. And then from there, we then move to operations of them to generate as a sort of operating model. And then there's all sorts of other things that come from that, things like drone swarms and air traffic control and all sorts of other stuff that we may or may not get involved in the future. So the first of the two projects I've got here is the Mercury Drone Ports Programme. This is part of the Tay Cities deal. We work with Angus, and as part of the Mercury Programme, they're part of it. We have a 4-stage project where we aim to do beyond visual line of sight flight from in and around Angus. So on the left-hand side, you can see some corridors that we're planning, where we're building. So these are airspace corridors, segregated. We'll be delivering medical samples into Dundee. First time, pretty much, anywhere in the UK, at least, that drones will fly from the rural environment into a city. So that will be in the news, hopefully next year. We're working with Skyports and Drone Prep, two of the leaders there, but we should attract quite a lot of attention, hopefully, that. And the aim is ultimately to move to the things on the right-hand side. So that's a kind of a whole network around about Angus, onshore and offshore. So the commercial opportunities offshore, where there's too many other people around, will give us early commercial operations. And then if you look on the bottom right, the aim ultimately is to build a centre of excellence for drone technology. That's not what exists in Montrose just now. That's something similar that exists in Belgium. And we aim to do something like that, where we become a hub for the development of drone technology within Scotland. So if you've got a question in Scotland, or you've got a project or anything that you want to know, you would phone us up and we would be able to help you and provide you office space and partners and all that kind of other stuff. This is a kind of I around about Dundee. We're looking at projects to do with the flying taxis, so the AAVs. We're a strategic partner for EHang. They're the world's leader, or one of the world's leaders in passenger transport and in drones, autonomous passenger transport. They've done over 15,000 flights, and you can see they flew in Estonia 2 weeks ago. They've got the permissions in Australia, and they've flown in the Netherlands as well, and another 10 countries around the world. You know, they've got a whole lot of agreements in Spain, so they'll be there as well. And our aim is to run a demonstration, effectively following what they do elsewhere. Just replicate that, build a business case, and there's the kind of details within it. It all ties into smart cities, with the aim that potentially, you know, if we sell enough of these, if we prove it and we sell enough of these things, we'd start manufacturing. So that's the end of it there. So that's us. That's a few of us on the right hand side, and a picture of our drone shows that we sell on the left, just as a quick plug. But no, we're here. If you've got any questions on drones or any solutions that you projects or anything interesting you want to say, then there's my details, and they're also in the chat as well. So thank you very much.